Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming back to another episode of our podcast, A While Back. Today, we have a young man that's near and dear to my heart.
Aww.
He's near and dear to Marty's heart as well,
too.
and to Grandpa's. He's our oldest son, Zachary. And going forward, we refer to him now as Dr. Zachary. And today's title is going to speak to that because today's title will be The Doctor is In. So today we're going to be asking Zachary some questions about the practice that he's in now, where it's at. We'll talk about the differences of Texas compared to the state that he lives in now. And we're going to just go with no questions that are predetermined. This is just going to be a discussion with us three. All right? All right, good. All right, Zachary, so go on and let's do an introduction first of yourself, please.
Well, I'm the firstborn, Zachary. Just finally finished school after a lifelong adventure in that. And just for these past few months, maybe 4 months, started working finally in the dental office. So it's nice to make money.
It's nice to make money.
It's very nice to have some money in your pocket. Yeah.
Well, that's good. So what was your degree in and where did you graduate from?
So I graduated from the A&M Dental School in Dallas, Texas. Doctor of Dental Surgery, just like every other DDS. It's
Right.
all the same.
Right.
And then from there, decided to make a big change, moved up to Arkansas. Reason being, it's beautiful. You know, we have seasons. It's heavily wooded. There's trees everywhere. It's not as there's very little concrete compared to Texas.
Right.
So it's a perfect fit. I love it up there.
Well, that's good. Texas has 2 seasons, early summer and late summer.
Exactly. You know,
Basically.
we actually have a fall up there. The trees change color, and then you move into a winter. We got snow a couple weeks ago, and then I don't know. I've never been in the spring there, so that'll be a surprise.
Well, that's
Wow,
good. All right.
that will.
Yeah.
So the practice that you're at is in Arkansas,
Yeah.
and you enjoy it there. It's very nice practice. And,
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay.
I'm up in the top left corner, the northwest corner, right in that little box area is where I am.
Of Arkansas.
So it's a lot of old hills.
Right.
It's just heavily wooded. You know, it's not developed. It's a perfect fit.
Well, that's outstanding. Good.
Well, I know you're. We're glad to have you back in Texas, even though you are from Arkansas. And I know you like Arkansas and everything.
Yeah.
But what I was going to ask you, Zach, how was it when you went to your first patient? How did that feel?
You know, there was a little bit of nerves because for the first time you don't have a teacher, you know. But then you look back and you did so much school to get there. You did so much training. Our school did a really good job of it. So
Super.
it took me a second, you know, swallowed, just readjusted my lenses and realized I know what I'm doing. And it was just smooth sailing from there. Just a couple seconds to realize, you know, you're in it. You're
Right.
good.
Another question. What did your patient think of you when they saw a young dentist walk in on them for the first time?
They were surprised. I had a few professors ask me, you know, if I was in high school when I was walking around the halls. So for a new patient to see somebody that looks like they're in high school was
Right.
a little bit of a shell shock. But you know, they trust you. You know what you're doing. So
Well,
there's
I
not
can
that
see
to
where
worry
that
about.
comes in because you look so young.
Yeah. I have
You
plenty
know,
of professors
yes.
think that.
Well, that's good. All right. So what was one of the biggest differences you encountered when you went to Arkansas? Besides the topography, besides the climate differences, what else did you see that was a huge difference between Arkansas and
I'd
Texas?
say the 2 biggest things is it's not very commercialized. Like
It's
they
not.
call it the natural state. It's not exploited. There's not nearly as much concrete. There's not massive outlet shops and gas stations everywhere. It's rural. Like outside of Little Rock, it's a lot more rural than anything else over here. And the other thing too, I would say, is the state income tax. There's a state income tax over there.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
I
it
forgot
is.
about
So
that.
we do
Right,
have a
right.
state income tax.
Right.
That would be the only other major change that I've noticed so far.
Okay, good. All
But
right.
it's a big change from that concrete of Dallas. Huh?
Yeah. Dallas is just a massive hot pad for the
Yeah.
sun to bounce off of.
Right.
Arkansas is very wooded.
But Dallas is still in Texas, and that's all. that
Oh, yeah.
Barely.
Still, we're proud of Dallas, like you say.
So when you moved from Corpus to Dallas, that was a huge change for you. Now you're all the way in Arkansas. Are you going to plan on making Arkansas a home for quite a few years now? What is your plan going forward?
The ideal plan would be, we're gonna make Arkansas home moving forward.
Okay, good.
You know, you just got to make sure everything's a perfect fit.
Right.
We've kind of, with this first year, my boss and I both said, you know, this is kind of a feel out year. We just want to make sure everything's perfect on both of our ends before we move forward to true long-term commitments in that regard. So that's the plan. That's the hope. But things can change. Life
Right.
can happen.
Absolutely.
If it does, nobody's opposed to moving back to Texas or another state for that matter.
Right.
Nothing's permanent.
Right. And the doctor that owns the practice, she's taught you quite a bit, I'm sure. Is there some things that perhaps that they did, besides the business aspect of it, were there other things that you did not get an education on the same way you're receiving it now under her tutelage? For instance, are there certain ways that she does techniques that are a little bit different? And is it completely new to you, or is it something that you already knew about?
There is difference. At the dental school, they teach you kind of like a one-way track to doing things, and that's not necessarily a bad way. But
Right.
they say there's more than one way to skin a cat. There's
Right.
100 different ways to do everything, and she taught me quite a few different ways to do different things, and none of them are. It's not crazy. You just you learn. Maybe you could do something this way. You can get a little maybe different point of leverage at this spot.
Right.
All little nicks and tricks here and there, and it's all about just making it easier for the patient. You get faster at it, you get better at it. It's easier on the patient, and it's easier on everybody. So that's kind of the way private practice works.
Exactly. Now, one of the things that you and I had talked about when you were first going to become a dentist is we had talked about bedside manner.
Yeah.
When you tell a patient more of exactly what they're going to experience ahead of time, they're a lot more comfortable, they're a lot more inclined to go by exactly
Right.
what you're saying, as opposed to all the horror stories you hear about dentists
Right.
wherever you're from. So, have you been practicing that?
Yeah,
And-
it's all about, we call it informed consent. You just make sure the patient, and everyone for that matter, understands inherent risks that could happen and, the good and bad of everything that you're doing and why you're doing it. They taught us in school, if you explain it after the fact, it's a mistake. If you explain it beforehand, it's forewarning. That's all it comes down to.
Absolutely.
So as long as you're good with that, it makes it easier to trust you
That's
for the
outstanding.
patient.
Good.
And tell us about your first day at work. I understand that you thought you might go in there and do one tooth fill or
Yeah.
something, but it turned out to be a lot more to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, first day out, you're kind of a little bit nervous going to work.
Mhm.
You're driving to work and let's see how today goes. I might have a couple
Mhm.
patients. And,
Right.
my doc wanted to be a teacher for me, not just the doctor boss. And so she kind of I don't want to say she threw me to the wolves, but she gave me a full schedule. And
Oh, good.
first thing you see, you're kind of like, oh my. But you know what? It was for the better. It
Absolutely,
gets you
yeah.
up. It's a refresh on how to do it, and then it gets you up to speed. You get to learn how to do
Real
things
quick.
in a private practice setting. So I really appreciated her doing that.
That was good. That
So,
was
yeah,
good that she did that.
It was
for
a
you,
full
yeah.
day, 8 to 5, all patients, but it was a good thing she did that.
That was
very
outstanding. Good.
So you went in with both feet, not
Yeah, you
just
just
within one
jump.
finger or two.
No, it was one of those jump in on the deep end, and
Okay.
And that's
It worked
probably the
perfect.
best way you could have learned.
It's
That
the
was
only way to
outstanding.
learn. That's how our school taught
That's
us.
outstanding. All right, good. Now, this one I had kind of, because when we had Kyle on the earlier episode, we had talked to him about college and what you can do to get extra tools at your disposal, techniques at your disposal. What I'd like for you to do, if you could, is just kind of tell people out there that are looking to maybe go into dentistry what some of the better avenues are that they would have access to, testing, books, whatever you can come up with. What do you remember that helped push you along in your career?
So the most important thing would be, in your area where you're at school or where you're from, just go shadow. Call whether it's
point.
medical, dental,
Right.
vet, literally anything. Even if you want to do something like a trade, like an electrician, just go shadow. Go ask someone if you can kind of see what a day in their shoes is like. That's the most important thing you can do. You can study all day and night to do something, but not know what it is you're getting into. So go shadow. Give yourself some exposure to what you're trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. So, and I know that you took the aptitude test for dentistry early. Is that something that you recommend as well to people, or?
It's all just about your comfort. I studied for it. I practiced for it. Everyone does. You have to. You can study, a year, and it might not make a difference. It's just about how well you do it, not about how much you do it or how hard you do it. As long as you're comfortable retaining it, you can do it. Just do your thing. You know you're better. You know yourself better than anybody.
Right. So you and Kyle grew up in, of course, Corpus. Or if you could just give me 2 to 3 things, what are the 3 things that you miss the most about living in Corpus?
I do miss fishing.
Right,
I miss
I know,
being
that's
on
fun.
the water.
Right.
We went crabbing yesterday, actually.
I know,
and
that
it's
was a
fun.
ball, right?
Just being able to get food that you could eat if you wanted. Like, we
Right.
let them go, but, we could have taken those crabs and ate them. Same with fish. Number 2 is the food. Mexican food down here is really good because it's kind of greasy and it tastes better that way.
You mean it has more flavor?
You can call it flavor, you can call it grease, it's all the same thing. It's nice to have it because there's a lot of different styles of it, and that's the style we grew up with, so that's
Right.
the best part.
Okay,
So
good.
I would say the water and the food are the 2 most important things. The humidity is really nice too. It's humid up there because there's a lot of streams and trees and hills to kind of hold it in. But down there, it's like 100%.
Wow.
Y'all have 100% humidity, and it's great because in the winter in Dallas, my nose dried out. I got nosebleeds like every day.
Oh, really? Was that
I don't get that up here in
Right.
Arkansas, and I never got it down in Corpus. So
Wow.
it was nice to have the humidity.
Now, as far as hunting, I know you like to hunt. How's the animals over there in Arkansas compared to the ones
So
in
I have-
Texas?
I haven't been hunting yet.
South Tex- oh, you haven't?
But, they have a lot of the same. They have hog because they're like everywhere.
Mhm.
They have some big deer. They have bigger bodied deer. It gets colder
Oh,
and they
they
have
do?
more food up there.
That's what I would think.
And they actually have native elk in the region. There is
Oh,
there is an
really?
elk herd in Arkansas. I think it's right now like 500 or 600 strong. And
Wow.
they only draw like 4 tags on the year for the whole state.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
4
Wow.
tags?
They're trying to build it up. Yeah,
Yeah,
Arkansas and
obviously.
Missouri are trying to build it up.
Wow, that is.
So they have elk, they have, deer and hog. Those are probably the big 3.
The big 3?
Nothing crazy there that isn't here, other than the exotics Texas has.
Right. Okay.
Do they have a lot of fishing streams over
Yeah,
there?
there's streams
They do
everywhere.
have streams.
We go camping or hiking, and we'll go hike, 5 miles,
Uh-huh.
and you walk up on a stream, just a random little stream, and
Oh,
there's always
really?
fish in there. I don't know how big they get because we don't have a
Wow.
fishing rod, but there's random
is-
streams everywhere.
So they must have a lot more rainfall down there.
Oh, they get a lot of rain. Yeah.
Oh, they
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
get a
it
lot.
rains a
of rain.
lot, especially in
Okay.
the summer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we get a lot.
That's interesting.
So y'all been hiking quite a bit. You've been camping a few times too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And is that something that, because we really didn't do that too much when y'all lived in Corpus,
Mhm.
but is that something that you enjoy now? Do you love that in Arkansas?
Yeah, so the reason we always loved hunting and fishing was just being in the outdoors.
Exactly.
You didn't have to catch fish, you didn't have to kill an animal to have fun. Hunting does that, camping and hiking do the same thing, except, I don't have to have licenses to do it. We can kind of just go do it whenever we want.
Right,
We don't have
that's
to have
correct.
access to private
Uh-huh.
land.
Uh-huh.
I mean, we just camped the other day and it was, I think, 20 degrees outside and we slept through that.
Wow.
Oh, really?
It's not bad. We had thermal sleeping bags, so they retain the heat. It was
Oh,
warm.
okay.
I was literally sweating.
Oh
so-
my goodness. Wow.
Yeah, it's fun because you're in nature. You just do your own thing, and that's the good thing. There's not parking lots everywhere. You literally just pull out onto a small road, and you
Right.
can find a little dirt path and just park and go walk for miles. Camp the
Yeah.
night if you want.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
And what type of reptiles do they have over there? Have you seen any?
I don't
In
know
the
what
time
they.
that you've been down
There
there, you
was-
haven't been there that long.
There was one time we were hiking and we were coming back, and I was walking behind my girlfriend Morgan,
Mhm.
and
Uh-huh.
she, out of the blue, she stops. Like, just stopped in her tracks, and I was like, "Is it a bear? What are we near?" Because they have bear up there. We do have bear up there.
Oh, you do have bear?
Little black bears, and I was like,
Oh,
"Is that
really?
a bear?" And I stopped too, and I was just looking around, and she points ahead, and there's this big old snake. It
Oh.
wasn't long, but it was very thick,
Oh.
and it was like an olive brown green mix.
Huh.
So we didn't know what it was, but we got kind of close, but I did notice that in the pupils there were kind of those slits. So I was like, "Ooh, that's probably
Oh,
something
yeah.
venomous."
Could have been some killer.
Wow.
Maybe like a moccasin
Adder
or something.
moccasin,
I don't
something
know.
like
So
that.
we just,
Right.
threw rocks at it till it really slithered away, and then we moved past it.
Wow.
Yeah, just be real careful.
Yeah. So that was the one time we've ever seen like a reptile.
So you had sent us some video of the first snowfall that y'all had up
Oh.
there too.
Mhm.
Did you get to drive in the snow? What was that like for you?
Arkansas does a good job. I guess they get a lot of snow normally, and so the major streets are cleared. Everything's salted. You can drive, no
Uh-huh.
problems. Our parking lot was frozen over.
Oh.
And for the whole week, it would hit, upper 30s and then hit the 20s at night. So it's freezing at night,
Really?
and it melts a little during the day, and then it freezes again at night. So it's just a layer of ice. So for the first day, I couldn't drive my car to work. I got picked up by my boss. And then after that, we were good to go. There was enough ice that was already melted that we were able to move the
Right.
car, no problem, into a better spot into the sun. So in the mornings, it was melting, so it wasn't a problem. But that first day, yeah, I couldn't drive.
All right, good. All right. So for your experiences so far in Arkansas, everything's been great. Everything's been outstanding. All right, good.
But from what I understand, in Arkansas, y'all have no better drivers than we do here in Texas. Is that correct?
Well,
I mean, you can be going 25 miles an hour and a car will pull right in front of you. Is that true?
Well, I like that. So I like fast drivers. The drivers are better than Corpus, but not as good as Dallas. I love Dallas drivers because they are hitting 100 on the highway and everybody just does their own thing. Corpus drivers are 10 under all the time.
Oh,
Arkansas
really?
drivers are in between.
Okay.
They're not bad, but they're not good.
Right.
They're not as good as Dallas drivers.
Well, I think Grandpa was bringing up the fact that you already had somebody pull out in front of you for an accident.
Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
thought he might have been.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all right. Nobody got hurt, so that was the
That's
Yeah,
important.
that wasn't it. That was
That's
good.
true.
All
No
right,
biggie
good.
there. It was interesting, your first
Yeah, I bet it
experience,
was. Yeah.
but it's not as complicated as you think it is.
And do they have the police show up on
Yeah,
an
you-
accident report right away?
You're supposed to call the police.
Oh, you do
because,
call the police?
Legally in Arkansas, you have to exchange insurance information and driver's
Oh,
license
okay.
stuff. So
So
you
it's
just if you
pretty
call the
much-
police and you tell them, you know, nobody got hurt, it was a car wreck, they'll come facilitate the exchange for you.
Right.
So you don't
so
really
it's
have to
more or
interact
less-
with the other person.
Oh, well, that's
especially,
even better.
okay.
especially with everything with COVID going on. You didn't
Yeah,
really have to
exactly.
be near each other.
Oh, okay.
So, because this was one thing I was going to ask about the practice. So, with COVID and all the precautions, all the PPE that you guys have to wear now, you actually have to have people wait outside before they can come into the office or into the waiting room, correct?
Yeah.
So, has that really hampered the speed by which you do procedures? Or is that something that gives you a little bit break in there so you can be a little bit more
You know,
refreshed?
it hasn't hampered the speed I can do them because, you know, they're going to be in the chair anyway. So I can still practice at the same speed. Whether that affects, you know, the volume of patients that can come through in a day, I can't speak to because I've never practiced without us being in COVID.
In COVID, right.
So I don't know what it would be like normally. I know there would be more patients, but whether the wait times would be greater, I don't know, and I can't speak to that. But when it comes to the time of the procedure, that doesn't change. They're going to be in the chair regardless.
Good.
So I still can practice.
All right.
Yeah, I would think there'd be, more patients if it wasn't for the COVID lined up more. Of course, now you're having the space so far apart,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it does space it apart, but, you know, in the waiting room too, everyone's in masks and all the chairs are 6+ feet apart. So
Oh,
you can
that's
still get the
another-
patients in the waiting room, but they're not there for long. The whole thing is they answer their screening and get everything done outside of the clinic and then get brought in
And then they're brought
when
in.
they're cleared.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So another thing, do you have to wear a mask when you're dealing with patients?
Yeah,
You
so
do wear a
even
mask?
even before COVID, you had to wear a mask
Right.
because
Oh, you still wore
everything
the
gets, you know, kicked up. It's an aerosol. You have
mask.
to
Oh,
use.
okay.
So even before COVID, I had to wear a mask. Now
Right.
it's like, okay, well, the only real difference is I wear an extra mask on top of that. I have my N95 and I have, you know, a level 3 mask on top of that. So that does a good job. Every now and then, depending on the procedure, they give you a face shield. And
Right.
You don't necessarily have to use it. It's just if you want. Like if there's a lot of splatter, like with the cleaning, you put a face shield on over the glass. I have eye protection already, so you know
Exactly.
it's a face shield with eye protection, with 2 masks.
What you-
So there's an extensive amount of coverage. So it's not like any exposures or, you know, I'm not gonna say they're not dangerous. It's just it's less likely to result in something because I'm heavily covered already.
That's good.
Yeah.
That is.
Well, I don't know that you could have found a better, you said boss, but I'm going to say a better doctor to help you start facilitating your career.
Yeah.
Because you did say she was a teacher at one point, correct?
No, she's my boss, but she is a very good teaching.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Teacher.
misunderstood. I thought you said that she was a
No,
teacher.
she hasn't
Oh,
worked
okay.
in academia,
Ah,
but she's a
okay.
very good boss that teaches as well. She
Good, good,
does a
good.
lot of like, you know, it's not that she'll ever step in and do something for me. She'll be maybe she's done with the patient, she'll come back and, you know, maybe give me a tip or trick on where to stand
Oh, okay.
or how to
Good.
hold this as opposed to that. Maybe where to position the light.
Right.
So she's a very good teacher in that she wants you to be better, because you know by being better you might be a little bit faster. That means a little less time on the patient, which means
Right.
everybody's happier. Everybody would be happier that way.
So for your patients, and you had actually kind of told Marty and Kyle and I, and I'm sure Morgan knows, you have a varying age group, I'm sure, correct?
Mhm.
So you have the little ones that come in, and then you have all the way up to senior citizens that come in. So out of all those, are the little ones more nervous than the senior citizens that come in, or what is it like for most of the procedures that you see?
We do have a good portion of pediatric or kids patients.
Uh-huh.
It just really depends on the child. Some
Really?
children are good, some are, you know, I don't want to call them bad, it's just they're not very good in the chair. There's a lot of stimuli at a dental appointment, and, you know, sometimes it's overwhelming for the kids.
Yeah.
It just depends on the child, really.
I guess some kids are more hyper than others.
Some might be more hyper. Some might be,
Kinda,
just a little more anxious or quick to display their anxiety.
Right,
so
right.
it could be a bunch of different things.
Mm.
But overall, children are really good in the chair. We don't have a hefty amount of elderly or senior citizens. We do have plenty, but it's not the majority of our practice. We tend to be in the middle.
Oh, good.
In that
Okay.
middle age bracket, I would say, maybe 40s to 20s. We have quite a bit of patients in that age.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that used to bother me the most, Zachary, was the drilling part.
Mhm.
But really, after you deaden them teeth that hard, the drilling, you don't even hardly feel that.
No, and that's literally.
Nowadays, it might have been different in the olden days, but nowadays, you don't hardly feel the drilling.
They used different anesthetics back in the day. Like, I
Oh,
don't want to call
okay.
you, say back in your day, but
Right.
A while back.
A while back.
Right.
It's just anesthetics over the years have become more potent. I guess would be the easy way. They bind a little better and
Oh.
they act a little faster. So
Okay.
now, you just tell every patient that. I tell every patient before we start. Unfortunately, I have to numb you up, but it's a good thing because you won't feel a thing. It's just gonna be a lot of loud noises and water, and you literally show them. You take out the handpiece, and especially with kids, I touch it to them, and I'm like, "Look, there's nothing to be afraid of."
Bingo.
So you do that. You just prep them for it, and there's never any problems.
Wow,
Good.
that's good.
Yeah, and you always check. You wait about 5 minutes. It takes about
Right.
5 minutes, and then you can knock it out.
Well, as a DDS, I can tell you it was always something I never thought about until I started to realize. And you told us all the stuff that you have to have in your background. You have to literally be a pharmacist. You have to know all the drugs inside and out because you get to prescribe them
Yeah.
and those kind of things. So have you gotten into the situation now where you're like, wow, I'm actually prescribing stuff for people?
Yeah.
Okay, so when you first did that, was that like a big moment with you? What was it like for you?
On the inside, I got a little nervous because I was like, "Oh wow, I've never written a script before."
Right.
But we also don't write, what I would consider high risk
Mhm.
scripts. It's mostly antibiotics.
Oh.
Maybe there's a big infection and you just want to help it go down. So
Right.
I don't really prescribe anything that should make me any reason to be nervous when it comes to any patients at all. So
Well, that's
it
good.
was cool the first time, and now it's just routine. It's like, well, maybe this patient needs it, maybe they don't. If they don't, you don't have to do anything. If they do, you just write them a quick script for whatever they need. It's just a signature, and it's a due diligence.
Right.
That's all.
And going back to that drilling part, Zachary, how deep do you know how to drill?
So it depends.
I know you got to be careful and not hitting a nerve.
Yeah, so there's 3 layers in your tooth. The
Okay.
outer part is the hardest, the middle part's a little bit softer, and then there's the nerve on the innermost.
Oh, okay.
You know a cavity because it's soft and you can push on it. So if I take an instrument and I push onto it and it, kind of gives way with pressure, that's a cavity.
Oh.
If you can feel it. You can feel it when you pull along it. Maybe it doesn't make a certain sound, or I don't know. It's hard to describe. You just
Oh, okay.
you can
I
see it
understand.
and you can feel it and you
Right.
know it is. And so you just take out all of that until it feels hard and it looks good again, like a normal tooth would. I mean, that's an easy way to distill it. There's a lot of things you can do, and there's a lot of ways to tell, but the easiest way is sound, feel, sight, those kind of things.
So in
Wow.
dental school, y'all more or less practice on a dummy doing that?
You spend a year working on fake teeth, just
Okay.
to learn the hand movements, to get yourself comfortable, smoothing things out, and be steady. Then you get 2 years working with actual patients as kind of
Oh,
a
okay.
practice, and all of it is just practicing towards your licensing exam. Once you pass your licensing exam, you can officially get your license and get started. You just have to graduate and get your license.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
That is.
All right, so this one, because we're going to be coming up towards the lower part of the episode, because we're going to be coming to an end before long. But I always have every grandchild that's on here, I tell them, ask them the exact same thing. So now that you're here, because we're not sure when we're going to be able to get you back to Victoria, or even Corpus for that matter,
Yeah.
but now that you're here, is there any question, anything, any piece of advice that you want to ask Grandpa to maybe get you through the next phase in your life? Anything that you might, or anything you heard in the episodes that you might want to ask Grandpa about?
I'd say when it comes to buying a home, how did you know this is where you want to settle down? How did you know, like being out here in the country, what made you want to do this? Growing up in Shiner?
Oh, you mean growing up, when I grew up, I moved to Victoria?
Yeah.
Well, I've always loved the country, exactly. And when we first moved here to Victoria, we lived in the city. We lived in the city like for 2 years, and then we moved to about 5 or 6 miles out of town towards Bloomington,
Right.
which was a more or less it was a neighborhood community. You can say a community, and but it wasn't enough land for me. It was like an acre of land, and that just wasn't enough for a country boy. For my tractor and driving, and it just wasn't enough. So we saw this land for sale, so I jumped on it and we moved out here, and we've been here ever since. But yeah, you'll see. You know, it just depends what you want in life.
Yeah.
You want to live in the city, you know, a lot of people live in the city, but once you're in a country, they like the old saying is, you can take the country out of the boy, but you can't take the boy out of the country.
That's fair.
That's me.
So what? That's the good thing about it too, is because whenever you're looking to buy a home, you know, and I know you were already talking about where you wanted to buy a home, but don't just narrow your search. No, you need to kind of expand it as well. So if you can buy acreage with a home, and let's say it's 5 miles down the road, that might be something that you would enjoy a lot more than just buying an acre lot that's 5 miles closer to work. So those are kind of things that you'll have to talk about and think about and make a decision on. But yeah, absolutely, you can pick his brain for that kind of stuff. He's done a great job with it already.
Yeah,
so
it looks great out here.
So did you have any other questions for Grandpa? Anything else that you could think of?
So the only other thing I was wondering, what's your favorite plant or, you know, cash crop to grow? Watermelon, corn? What do you love growing the most?
What I love growing the most, probably corn.
Corn?
Probably corn. Sweet corn now, because, but I think this year I'm going to plant regular field corn. Because as long as you got the sand, like we have a sand land over here, your corn's almost as sweet as sweet corn.
Oh.
And the ears are so much bigger. That's what I like about it.
That's fine.
There you go. All right, good. All right, so
Well, I plant watermelon and cantaloupe and you name it.
Yeah,
I try them
I've
all.
seen it all. I was just wondering which is your particular favorite.
he had his watermelon back
Squash.
there too, and finally this year there were some deer that went through there and chewed up a bunch
Oh
of
yeah,
his
the
watermelon.
deer helped me destroy my crop this year.
They love that sweet watermelon, so they
And the
enjoyed themselves.
raccoons.
Oh yeah,
raccoons.
the raccoons and
Yeah.
raccoons around there too. So, but yeah, he had a nice little garden back there.
Yeah,
so.
it was real good this year.
All right, well, we're going to be coming to the end because we're already close to the mark. So, Dad, was there anything
Okay.
else that you had for Zachary?
Um,
Any other question? Anything?
No, I think I'll get you in the next segment.
He's all talked out.
Yeah, he's all tucked out. Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to be coming to the end of the episode. But Zachary, thank you. You did a great job.
Yeah, you did
I
excellent.
know it's a long drive and a long flight, but thank you for coming on in. We appreciate it. And it's holiday season,
Yeah.
but just because it's holiday season doesn't mean that's the only time of year you need to come to Texas. You need to start thinking about maybe there's a couple more times throughout the year. We would love that.
We'll see. Maybe.
All right, good. Let's hope so.
That's exactly what I was going to tell you. You love Arkansas, but you're always welcome back in Texas.
All right.
Anytime.
That's 12
Absolutely.
hours away.
12 hours by car, but flight doesn't ever hurt to jump on a plane.
That's true.
That is true.
All right, well, good. Thank you. You did a great job. Grandpa, is there anything else you want to say?
Let me tell you something else.